Am I a parent? Well, if you mean it in the traditional sense of the word, then no, I do not have human kids. But in the non-traditional sense, well, I guess a lot of us would say that we identify as pet parents. But don't worry, we're not here to discuss that today. We're here to talk about what it takes to bring up a child in the age of social media. When access is unlimited, information is freely available, and traditional boundaries, well, they don't exist. Then how do parents adapt and align themselves? Let's get into it. Hi guys, I'm Janice Sequeira and this is The Healing Circle by Coto, a holistic emotional wellness platform that focuses on real stories and real solutions with mental health experts and holistic healers available at your fingertips. My guest for today, my forever crush, actor and climate warrior, Mirza, my entrepreneur turned creator buddy who always has a life skill or a life hack to share, Varun Duggirala, the OG fashion and lifestyle creator who's always expanding her horizons like a wow, Juhi Godambe Jain, and Dr. Mona, chief psychologist at Coto and renowned parenting coach. Thank you so much for taking the time out to do this. We're here to talk about your collective experiences about parenting. I'm not going to include myself. But I want to start off by sort of asking you guys to give a little bit of context to the audience. If you could tell me, about your children, their names, their age, and kind of like at what phase in your life did you feel like you had them?
I'm fairly new at this, right? Like my baby Aryan is 14 months. So I'm in fact going to learn a lot about parenting through you guys today. But yeah, and it's been fun.
Yes. Okay, Varun?
I have two kids, two human kids, two canine kids. My canine children are 13 and 8. My human children are 7.5 and 2.5. I have a 7.5-year-old girl who gave us the courage to have a second one, and then we had a 2.5-year-old son who has taken all that courage away. It's been 8 years of no sleep and a lot of fun.
Dee?
You're a cat mama, so don't exclude yourself from this
I've said that very happily in my introduction, like if not a human parent, but a cat parent. 3.
Yes, there you go. I have 2 children. I have a teenager who is like a toddler and a toddler who behaves like a teenager. So my son is 3.5 and my daughter is 15.5, soon to be 16.
Nice, nice. Dr. Mona, I love that. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get into that a little bit later. Dr. Mona?
Yeah, so I have 2 children, 2 daughters. The elder one is 17 and the younger one is 13.
Oh dear
so,
God.
Yeah, 2 teenagers at hand, so yeah, life is tough.
But I feel like there are certain keywords that every parent thinks about now. So the number one being screen time.
Yeah.
Which I feel like all my friends who have kids are obsessed with this. Like how much screen time should they be giving their kids?
I don't think you can avoid screens. And I feel that if you make your kids avoid screens all the time, then at some point it becomes that one thing which you want to do more because your parents said no to doing it.
Yeah.
But if you make them build a healthy relationship with it by talking about pros and cons, talking about what to watch, what not to watch. Like I have a 2.5-year-old who's learned something which I find really funny. He said when he's watching something which he shouldn't watch, he said it's not allowed. So now he'll walk around the house. If I'm on my phone, he'll tell Papa, not allowed, right? Show them that what's good for them, what's not good for them, and too much of anything is bad. It's a evolving process. That's how we've looked at it at home. We don't say no, but we also tell them when they get it, when they don't get it.
See, basically screen and especially content created for children is like a dopamine addiction.
Yeah.
It's like, giving a child cocaine. That's how the brain reacts to screen and the colors and the way it moves and the music, etc. So when you realize that, and also I think as grown-ups, we struggle with our own screen time addictions, right? And we're
100%.
like working so hard on reducing our screen time. You realize that the last thing you want to do is to develop an addiction in your child. And also because I inherited a daughter at age 11 who had already been on a smartphone with access to social media from the age of 6. And we were struggling with her to help her kind of de-addict and do like a full reverse addiction kind of process with her.
And what level of screen time was she at?
She was doing 8 hours a day, maybe even more. And it was so hard. It continues to be a struggle. So we have that example at home of how bad things can get. And both parents, in her case, had a situation. It was hard for them. For whatever their compulsions were, she ended up being given a smartphone at too young an age, and it's it's been one of the worst things or worst life decisions her parents could have made for her. So now we're trying to fix that, but while we do that, I think it's made us acutely aware of what we don't want to do with Abhiyan.
Yeah. It's interesting that you're saying like at a de-addiction level at what, now she's how, 15 and a half?
Yeah. And her whole peer group, all of them, all the kids her age. So the most excessive punishment, and I don't believe in punishments, but what you call consequence for poor choices is taking her off social media or taking her phone away. And I know the level of rebellion that evokes in her.
Aggression
An
also.
aggression
Yeah.
that evokes in her when she's told that, okay, if you are not going to make better choices and you're not going to put in the time that you need to study, to learn, to do the other things that you need, exercise even, this is something that we're not going to, you're not going to have free access to. It's a huge issue.
The thing that I seem to notice is that very often when parents don't know what else to do, and especially let's say they're at a mall, like with my niece for example, my niece won't eat her meal sometimes when we're outside. At home she has no problem sort of eating with us without screen time, but if we're in a mall or a restaurant, immediately she wants the screen.
If you've given it once, then remember the child will want it every time.
Exactly.
Because it's basically the kid has been told that, oh, this is the time for a fix. This is the ideal opportunity because here I won't be denied my fix.
So the children are very smart in that, they learn, they know how to mold their parents, how to make their parents, run on their wishes.
And given what they want.
Yes, and especially in an outside situation when the parents have a fear of judgment, that if I don't give my child the screen, the child is going to throw tantrums. What are the other people going to think about me? That how bad I am as a parent. So for our own thing, we just hand over the screen to the child.
Has your 14-month-old discovered
I mean,
screen
luckily he's not even into it. He loves Alexa though. The minute we say Alexa at home, he's like, where's Alexa? He doesn't, and it doesn't matter where we are. Even if we're out and about, we say Alexa, he's like, oh my god, there's some sound coming now. So he doesn't really care about the screen as of now, but I was just talking to a friend of mine who also has a child who's about 16, 17 months. And sometimes it's just that, it's also about convenience, and also parents get so tired. They just took a flight from New York. It was a very long flight, and eventually they just gave in. They were like, what do? We've tried everything. My child won't stop crying. Like, obviously.
and on a flight, more than,
people
you
are
being
judging
hassled,
you. Yeah.
it's
Right,
the others
it's the
who are like,
others.
hello.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's also like you're kind of worried that people are going to judge you, and like there's just lots of like, it's as I said, it's just easier said than done sometimes.
Have you guys seen that there's one viral clip that, a clip that went viral, sorry, on Instagram of this mother who had made like 600 and something packets for all the other passengers saying, I'm so sorry,
Yes, I
I'm
saw
traveling with a toddler. So, here are some earplugs, here's some candy, here's some other things, and here's a sorry note for, the fact that my child is going to be crying.
Because it's true, like people give you all sorts of stares. Like I went on a flight where Aryan, poor thing, was crying, and people were just like giving me the looks. I'm like, listen, you try doing this.
One of the things you learn as a parent is that you actually don't care. I mean, the eyes on you at some point will be
Maybe
like.
eventually, because right now I still sometimes.
Some days you look at you.
She's
Exactly.
she's
that
only had it for
happens-
14 months.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
I'm saying
so
at some
that
point-
happens more with the second child.
Yeah.
That, by the first child, you are like, okay, done with it. That, theek hai.
No, Varun, I think you also need to be certain level of evolved to not care. I think a vast majority of us do care.
I think they said that.
And I think that's really one of
yes.
the reasons for
The
why we
judgment
make
coming
bad
from others.
decisions.
Like I also
so
don't care if
often.
someone seeing, like, we had this instance and I'll never forget, and we were like, okay, one second, we've been able to build careers and lives a way that we can afford to, let's say, travel business class internationally. And so there were just the two of us and Leah, because we hadn't had Veda yet. We've said business class for both of us, we bought business class for her, and we saw these two other men sitting across, and we could hear them talking about, we would never let our kids travel this way, this is how we spoil kids and that. I was like, I'm just going to let this go. Pooja was like, no, I'm going to go talk to them, saying, A, you don't talk about my child. Secondly, who are you to judge? Right? This is a choice we have made. And so she went to them, and they were like supremely apologetic, very well should be. But it's also that at some point, people come from their own context, but you got to go to them and say that, guys, you are not living my reality.
Yeah.
And you might, like, for me, giving a child a screen is at a restaurant sometimes something we do pretty often. But it's my job to make sure whatever is on their screens, and because you're specific, all my old iPads are thankfully children's iPads now. And I have literally sat every night, every week and curated what they're watching, deleting stuff off. They have specific apps, stuff they can't access. They earn the right to get a new puzzle game on it. They earn the right to get a new game on it. So we made it a more positive screen time scenario where it's not about, okay, just watching something like this. And my son is obsessed with Natu Natu, for instance.
Yeah.
Right? I've heard that song.
I get that.
6 months only
I
that
get
song.
it.
So he's going to football classes doing that song. He's on his iPad, he's looking for that song.
Remember
And I'm
Abhiyan?
like, I'll find ways to do it.
What song was Avyan? Was
Nat.
Oh, Natu Natu.
It's a thing.
Oh
The
my God,
2-year-olds
they
love it. My favorite story, we were at Singapore airport coming back from a holiday, and this one kid was screaming. And I saw both the parents just standing, watching the kid, not doing anything, just staring at. The kid got calmed down after a while, and they just went ahead. And I was like, full respect.
Wow, yeah.
Full respect. Everybody's staring like, don't care. Stop crying, we'll go then. But not everyone can do that.
This is a huge issue, and it's also becoming a social issue. You know, Zoya, a friend of mine, said something very important to me, which I will never forget. She said, you know, through life, we are trying to, even as adults, we're trying to identify and understand the role of the ego, right? Imagine little children who are exposed to social media, watching TikTok videos and all kinds of, you know, short format content, which is moving fast,
Reels.
are discovering alter egos even before they formed their own identity.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what it's doing to them?
I think that is the biggest drawback of social media, and you know, giving the children the screen time, as we talk about. One is, you know, there are certain neural pathways which are formed in our brain. So when you are giving the child the screen and repeatedly exposing them to certain content, those neural pathways, they start strengthening. So your child, whatever the child is consuming online, okay, whatever you are giving your child the most, your child is, you know, those pathways are getting strengthened, and that is what will form the identity of your child at a later age.
Yeah.
Because till the 7 years, whatever the children are consuming, that is how their personality will actually develop. That's why we are seeing so many learning disabilities, so many children not able to cope up with the pressures of the reality.
And it makes me wonder, like, why isn't anyone actually talking about what it takes to become a parent? It's not just about like getting pregnant and having the child, because that's just what 1% of the job.
Yeah, exactly.
Because people think you learn from movies and watching other people.
Or
and
learn on the go.
or
learn on the go.
It's natural, it comes
It is
out.
evolving on the go. You know? Parenting, I would say, is evolving on the go.
Yeah.
You know, you evolve yourself. You don't learn.
Things are just changing so quick, so you just kind of have to watch and learn and like figure it out as
Yeah.
it's happening.
So I have friends, kids who come up to me and they're just like, listen, when can we start a YouTube channel together?
Yeah.
Which brings me to my next point, right, which is social media. All three of you all have a huge presence on social media, right? What is your take on it? What is your take on this entire mommy influencers, daddy influencers? Varun smiling. Varun's a daddy influencer himself.
I in fact walked in and I said thank you, because firstly I think what Varun is doing is that he's really dispelling this notion that the father has little or no role to play in a child's life in the first 7-8 years. For me, social media has really been that. It's genuinely been a tool and an instrument to impact change, and I do it by sharing life,
Yeah.
by sharing my learnings, by sharing my discoveries, and that's it. For me, it's nothing else. My 15-and-a-half-year-old daughter often jokes and asks me, tell me, like last night only, she said, tell you what are the top 10 trends of 2024? And I looked at her, I was like, I have no idea. So I don't know social media beyond what I use it for.
From my perspective, I feel like actors have a kind of choice in this matter, okay? Actors can choose to not completely go into social media. They can be like, you know what, I will only come, do this much, talk about the things I believe in, promote my films, and they can take a backseat. They are not content creators. But content creators who also become parents, it's a very difficult choice, because, correct me if I'm wrong, how much money a brand sometimes offering just to have your child in the video. And they'll do all kinds. They know that everyone has rules.
Yeah, I can see.
No, please.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can.
I can just imagine.
So I'll tell you what, I've been doing this for almost 10 years now, and
Yeah.
I work very hard to kind of create a name in fashion, right? And
Yeah.
now just because I've had a baby, brands were very quick to they wanted me to kind of endorse baby products, and of course I did a couple, especially products that I really used and thought they were great. But I was very strict, from the beginning, that I don't want to kind of transition into a I don't know, like a mommy blogger.
influencer.
Also because I don't know much, I'm still very new to it. So what do I even share? And also I don't want people to kind of, take away the whole fashion part of me, because that's what I've built over the years, right? So I kind of want to stick to what I've built. I want to, just because I'm a mom now, that doesn't mean that I have to become a mom blogger.
One of the things that initially we would show Leah's face.
Yeah.
Because she was always this. She's my daughter, so I'll obviously have nice things to say, but
It's okay. You
she's
guys
got
are allowed to have biases
she's
about
got
your
a-
child. Yeah,
She's
come
got a
on.
personality
Yeah.
which is super interesting, right? And so I've had videos early pandemic also, where she's been
She's
like,
adorable, just say it.
Yeah, my daughter is so intelligent,
She
most
is
intelligent
such a
child on
cute
social
child.
so, but at some point she said, I don't want my face on.
Yeah.
She calls them big people videos. She said, no big people video. So we sat down and said, "Okay, you don't want it, we won't do it." And she, and this is a child at 3 who chose to be vegetarian out of choice.
Yeah.
Right? She said, she asked us, we were showing her old McDonald had a farm. She said, are the animals happy in the farm? And we were honest with her, and then she said no. She literally gone to resorts and told the chef that bad person because he had that fish grill over there and stuff like that, right? So when she said no, we said, okay, it's your choice.
Yeah.
So now that's obviously going to seep down to Veda as well, because obviously we've done that with her, and so we try to not show her face unless she's okay with it. I'm helping her set up a YouTube channel right now, and her first thing was, I want to do my art,
Yeah.
but I want to put it on YouTube because I watch YouTube, but I don't want my face anywhere. I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll help you do that. So at some point, what we have tried to do, and it's a very fine balance and it goes off many times, is that we want her to learn how to make these choices herself, but to also never hide stuff from her. We are like, you will see your parents have an argument or have a point where we actually might be very stern with each other, but we'll explain to you why we had that. So she also should never be worried about, something's happening which I don't know about, it's been hidden from me, we'll be open about it. And we've seen that helped her evolve into this really silent, confident person. And I say silent in the sense that she'll be shy normally, but she'll get on stage and she'll be great. And you've seen her do that
That's
stuff
the
in
best
school.
kind of confidence.
Which is perfect, right?
Just secure confidence. I don't need to be the center
so
of attention.
Clear. She'll say no. You tell her to do something, she's like, I don't want to do it, and very clear about it, and you can't change your mind about it.
But to me, I feel like you guys are very, you'll have thought a lot about this.
Yeah.
I don't think the majority of the parents are thinking that much about it. Doc, I could be wrong, please tell me before the comment section goes what do you mean we're not thinking about it? But is everyone thinking this much?
No. Unfortunately, no. Yes, your comment sections might blow up. Otherwise, if everybody's thinking like that, you would see the result in the society, right? So what we see, what people come to me, it is like most of the people, parents never thought about it. And when things go wrong, they started thinking, oh, what happened? Then they go into the reverse thing, that what happened? Where did I go wrong?
So in this entire thing, where does social media come in?
So social media comes in, parents, they do not know, there's a very fine balance between exposing too much and exposing too little about their parents. And what that does it gets into the privacy of the child. Okay, so the children will not have a sense of boundary. They do not know how much to share, what is the boundary, how much part I should expose, how much part I should not expose. So they do not have a sense of boundary, and that impacts their relationships, their growing up, their interpersonal relationship, that affects everything in their life.
So when parents come to you, for example, with social media queries about whether we should allow our children to be on camera
Social
or not,
media, right.
What is your advice to them generally?
Be very mindful about it. Right? If it is, as Juhi very rightly said, that the brand is about me, it is about my fashion. I don't want it to become a parenting or a mother-led brand, right? So be very mindful about what you're doing and what is the purpose, long-term purpose behind it, right? The purpose, the why has to be very clear. Why are you putting your child out there? Why is that? So, that has to be very clear, and what impact it will have in the long run on your child. having fuzzed up boundaries, not having good interpersonal relationship is one thing. The other aspect, what happens is the children grow up with a lot of stress and anxiety, because anything you put up is bound to have comments. People are going to troll you. Somebody will like you, somebody will not like you. So how do you deal with that? And nobody tells the child how to deal with all that.
And it feels like
Samira went through this phase, Janice, between 12 and 13 and a half, 14, 2.5 years actually, where she didn't want to be seen on my page.
I remember.
She didn't want her face to be seen on my page. I respected it. And people asked all kinds of questions. Are you not posting her pictures because she's not your daughter? How stupid
I
people
see so
are.
much of pressure.
So I'm like, it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
Never has, it never will. Irrespective, the point is that you have to respect your child's wishes.
Absolutely.
Of course, right now my son is too young to tell me whether he wants to be seen on my page or not. But the day he tells me he doesn't want to be seen, I'll have to respect that.
Absolutely.
But Varun, and you are absolutely right in saying what you are, there are so many things that I'm tempted to share about my child on social media. I don't. I don't unless I feel like, is this something that's going to bring value? Is it going to make a difference? Is it going to help someone? If the answer is yes, only then it goes up.
Absolutely.
The one thing that I have been most resistant to do is to commodify my children.
I agree.
monetize.
And the easiest thing to do in our world, and especially with the background, the profession that I'm in, it's so easy to become a commodity yourself. Because at the end of the day, that's what everyone's waiting to make of you, right?
They become a prop.
Absolutely. And that is the one thing. And I am terrified of the consequences of that. Because it's scary when I see little girls being made up, being made to wear certain provocative. And I hate to use the words that I am, but I see those videos.
That is the sad reality.
And then when you look at the rise in child pornography and the kind of misuse of children and their images and their videos online and the kind of crime it's leading to, it's terrifying. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
I'm telling you, like, literally one of the things that keeps coming up on my explore page, no matter how many times I've said I do not like, so Instagram allows you that option where you say I don't want to see content like this, right? Are these like child, I
And
don't
you
know.
can keep reporting them.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't-
New accounts come up and new accounts with,
and I'm like, what is then against your user guidelines?
But-
You're okay with everything.
So coming to that, like, I mean, because I feel like, and like you said, a lot of these videos are not innocent, just like children dancing to a trending song, which also I don't know if it's fully innocent, but I'm saying this is like, I see a girl who's as young as 11, 12, 13, maybe at the most 14, who's sitting with a guy who's like 25, 30 and there's like romantic videos being shot. I'm like, how is this okay?
Yeah.
And how are brands also then putting money behind this? So which brings me to our next question, like, do we need to have laws when it comes to, because as parents, are you all not worried?
Absolutely. I think
Like there are countries now that are forbidding children below the age of 16 from using social
See, the
media.
kids don't know
or
what is
being-
happening to them. The children don't know. It is the parents who are just pushing them towards all this.
A young kid I remember came up and was like, hey, can I get a photo? But I'm just like, why are you on social media firstly? Like, so sometimes it's a little like, but like, what are you getting out of social media? Like, what are you understanding?
So my 17-year-old Anika, she got her first social media account when she turned 13. So I was like, not before that. But yes, still, there's a lot of peer pressure.
Yeah.
Right? Because the children in her class, they had social media account from the age of 10.
Yes.
So, and everybody used to bully her that, you don't have an account.
This
So
is going to
that
become a
bullying-
new form of bullying though, isn't it?
It is.
Like, I feel like sometimes when children also say, I don't want to be in pictures or I don't want to show my face, it's because probably you don't even know if someone's come up to them in class and said, oh, I saw in your mom's picture, whatever, why were you looking like that? It seems like the most natural thing that kids would pick up on stuff like that.
Which is why Snapchat stayed relevant and grew, right? Because if you look at Snapchat versus the others, the images come and go. They're not consistently there. Which is why a lot of younger
most of the
kids.
teenagers are on Snapchat.
Because it comes and goes.
On Instagram, most of them have like a black picture for their display image. Yeah.
Yeah. Instagram's
And
also
they only
become
use
a
it for
older
stories,
person
they don't
thing now.
post.
They actually think what we used to think about Facebook, they think
Yeah.
about Instagram. So everyone's
Exactly.
on Snapchat, by the way.
Hey, I came from Orkut, okay, so I'm like, it's like I'm
MySpace, don't lie, MySpace. Your children, and you already talked about how your daughter traveled in business class. They're going to grow up in a certain amount of privilege, right? But with privilege, how do you also keep them in check and saying like, hi, all of this didn't come to me and come to your mom on a platter.
For me, growing up, for example, I always saw my parents work super hard, okay? And like, I kind of saw them build what they built over the years. And I too, I feel, came from, some amount of privilege. But I remember that my dad always okay, for example, I got a designer handbag at a very young age. And because I always, loved fashion, I saw my mom dress up and go to work. And it was something...
How young?
I was very young. I was 16, which is very young. But I also remember my dad sitting me down and be like, this is a lot of hard work. You need to realize that, and you have to value everything. So it's just the way you grow up.
I think there's a line between privilege
Yeah.
and being entitled. I think it's more important to make sure our children are not entitled. I think privilege is something we can't hide. If you have given it to your children, they live in that now.
Correct. It's their
like my
reality.
kids go to an international board school. It will bring a certain aspect. We chose that for a particular set of reasons. But if you can teach them not to be entitled, like you said, like they understand the value of things and why and what is taken to be able to come to this point with that. And that, I think, helps manage the privilege a lot better.
It's very simple. Your children will become some version of you.
Yeah, correct.
So if you are entitled, your children are bound to be entitled. If you are grounded and you're simple and you value things and you work hard and you acknowledge your privilege. I think most of us don't acknowledge our privilege.
Yeah.
But most importantly, I think if your children are taught empathy, then there is a lesser chance or a lower risk of entitlement creeping in. I think one of the most important empathy building exercises is to generously give your child exposure to those who have less privilege than yourself. Because when they engage with such children and they spend time with them regularly, they learn to value what they have much more and they learn to share what they have much more. Your kids need to not just see a child asking for something at a street signal. That's not enough to shake them up because they are seeing that. It's almost like, how many of us see those children?
We don't.
Right? We don't. And that's the same thing that's naturally going to have to happen to kids because it's a sight they're seeing from day one. So how do you make them sensitive to that? By taking them to spaces, whether it's a NGO or an organization or your own work that you're doing. So go for those beach cleanups, go spend time with children who have less privilege than yourself.
And then have conversations with them
And have
about
conversations and work to help make a difference. So when Sharda, who's been with us for 17 years, had her baby girl, when she comes to work with her baby and my child sees her arriving in an auto rickshaw, holding her infant, putting her baby into a soft bed that we've made, provided her, and working, cooking, Avyan goes and entertains that child while Sharda is doing her work. He, from this very young age, is seeing what it takes to provide. I shouldn't have to tell him I worked really hard to buy you this toy. He's seeing it. But how do we get them to value it is the question. Value is formed when you don't burden your child, and I use the word burden very consciously. Don't burden your child with excess. Of course you have the means to buy the world for them, but don't give them the world because it's the fastest and the easiest way to destroy their attention.
I completely echo your thoughts, I think empathy and all these things, what we are talking about, empathy, values, everything, you cannot teach it to the child. No. You have to do it yourself first.
When we started building the company, right, it started off because we were talking to so many parents who were struggling with this, and we saw that parental guilt was so high because I think a modern parent today is also trying to have a career, not want to give up their ambition, also bring up a child, make them mindful, make sure they succeed in this world that seems to be changing every single day. Am I doing? They go from am I doing enough to am I doing too much?
Yeah.
And giving up on myself to so much else. And parental guilt kept coming up, and I feel a large cycle of that guilt comes from you believing that you need to have all the answers. Parents don't have all the answers. You cannot have all the answers.
It's the most terrifying job in
Yeah.
the world, period.
Yeah.
And
you
you,
want to do
should
it
show
right.
that vulnerability to your child.
Yeah.
Children should know that yes, my parents can go wrong.
Yeah.
They can.
Yeah,
They
and-
do idolize
And
you.
also,
Yeah.
can we go wrong and acknowledge our mistakes?
So my son is a hyper 2.5-year-old child who has way too much energy for that size, right? And he learned somewhere that when he behaves badly, he says, "I'm bad.
Oh, Baba.
I'm bad.
I'm bad."
my-
I know where he heard it.
He must have heard somebody say my bad.
So no,
he's
he said that.
translated
So he has
my
Veda.
bad
He's like
to
Veda bad boy.
Vale, Baba.
So he'll do something wrong and he'll say Veda bad boy. And then not say sorry. So like 1 second, hold on. No, then so it became this tricky thing to explain to him that just because you've done something that might be construed as bad doesn't mean you're bad. But also now he's having fun because he's like, I can just say I'm a bad boy and go ahead and behave how I want to behave. But at some point became like, and how do you tell this to a 2.5-year-old who is still not understood communication, right? What's really helped is to have the 7-year-old explain it to him.
Yeah.
She's great with him. She'll sit him down. He listens to her more than he listens to us many times, which is exactly how me and my sister were. I have a sister who's 9 years younger. My parents would call me and say, talk to her about this. Right? And it's just that you realize that your children have the answers in some weird ways. You have to find a way to get it through to them. But
Yeah,
take
we
that
use
pressure
our
off. Yeah.
We use our 3-year-old to get through to our 15-and-a-half-year-old. We really do.
the reverse.
Yaya, go and
It does
study.
work.
This is Yaya, go have a bath.
So this is why, because the children are a clean slate, you know.
Yeah.
They do not have so much of baggage or so many thoughts in their mind already. So the moment you tell them something, they capture it.
You know, Janice, I remember when I was growing up, my parents treating me as an individual. You know, I was never, there was no baby talk.
Yeah.
They were gentle with me. They spoke very softly and kindly, but there was no baby talk. I was never spoken down to. I was always treated as an individual, and that's what the school system also did, which was J. Krishnamurti. And I remember very consciously as a child making a note to myself that when I have children, I will make sure I treat them as individuals, because there is no greater form of communication than communication that's core is respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like, you know, whether you're sharing stories or you're, like Avyan loves to know what my day was like, you know, and I tell him about, you know, so I was shooting in Nal at an Air Force base, so I came back and he wanted to know what was the shoot about, where I was shooting. So I told him all about it. I told him about the Air Force officers, I told him about the lady officer, how she's leading her whole, you know, team, how she's teaching us how to, and I use big words. So I don't try and, I keep it simple, but I don't desist from using big words. So he remembers them, he understands them, he uses them in the right context at the right time, so his associative power skills are really strong. And interestingly, 15 days after I had told him the story of the Air Force base, he asked for the story again, because we like to hear some stories repeatedly. And I couldn't remember the name of the other aircraft I had sat in. So I said one was the MiG-28 Avyan, and I can't for the life of me remember the name of the other aircraft. So coy.
He remembered. Wow.
So I feel communication is
Communication is
key. It's everything.
important.
And he was an extremely premature baby, so I had nothing but language. The only thing I could do standing in the NICU for 2.5 months was talk to him.
You do have goosebumps. Now I'm just like,
Yeah, so words are everything.
Juhi and I were having a conversation off camera where someone recently told her, you don't look like a mom. And I was like, what do mothers look like? This is like the same thing what, when we were younger, people would be like, oh, you don't look married. And I'm like, again, what do married women or men look like? But the amount of pressure that mothers carry, and especially working moms, like how real was the whole mom guilt phase for you guys, and are you still going through it?
I mean, I now I've realized it's a never-ending thing. But I want to actually tell you what this was about. So I remember I was taking a walk in my building, and a group of aunties looked at me and went like, oh, it doesn't look like you were breastfeeding, because I lost weight.
Oh, wow.
I'm like,
They went straight for like, that's so personal.
And I breastfed Aryan till 9 months, and I'm very proud of it, And even if you can't, it's absolutely okay. Like, why is it such a taboo? So that is what I was talking about. It's so strange. But the mom guilt, even from within, right? It's a never-ending thing. I grew up in a way that my mom went to work right from the beginning. So that was my example. And even at home, my mother-in-law is a housewife. And for her to still, be so proud of me and, support me to do what I do is a big thing. So what works for me is the fact that I have such a strong ecosystem around me. My family is super supportive, and which lets me go and work. And then it really doesn't matter what the society has to say, but then the mom guilt is just tremendous. From within, with what people have to say, it's a never-ending thing.
I completely get it what you're saying, On our app, Coto, every day so many women reach out to us asking that, I had a child, I have to go back to work, but I don't have the courage. What if something will happen? How will I leave my child in the care of, a nanny or maybe, a daycare center? How can I leave my child like that? How can I actually, trust someone else? I don't trust my mother-in-law to take care of my child very well. I mean, you're blessed. Most of us are blessed here to have a support system. But yes, there are many ladies who actually call us for help, for asking out for help on such things. They are all working ladies. They all want to go back to work, but somewhere that guilt stops them. So mom's guilt is, yes, definitely a reality word that every woman faces. Yeah. So, I mean, my personal thing, when I was like just flying to Mumbai, and my daughter, younger one, she was down with the stomach upset and everything. And for a moment it came to me that, I think I should cancel it. But yeah, it was like, I have to show my child that everything can be managed, and how my family, came up that, it's okay, we will manage the stuff. Why don't you go ahead with that?
But we talk so much about mom's guilt. Where's dad's guilt, Varun?
So,
do dads have guilt?
Yeah. Sure.
I feel the dads who know what they can and should do is, I feel, where it really comes from, right? So when I became a dad about 6 months before, I couldn't find any resources, and I went around looking for stuff, and everything was like, how do you support your wife? How do you support your wife? Nothing on what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So much for women, right? Like, and so I went to went to the mom YouTube channels, how do you burp a child? How do you feed them? All that stuff. And at some point, I had a friend turn to me and say, just start with what she doesn't want to do. So I sat Pooja down and said, it's going to start. And when it started, the first month was like, and everyone tells you the first couple of months are beautiful. They're not. They are like, it's like Big Boss. Like you have one task given to you at different times. You're woken up and given it, and you have to do it. You have no sleep. You have not washed your face, hair, whatever for so long. You have no idea what's going on. Like, life just changes. Yeah. And I just said, okay, Pooja, what do you not want to do? So I can do that. And she said, if I get a full night's sleep, I can do that.
Everything. Yeah.
I said, I'll do every single night. I've done every single night for 8 years, almost now. Wow. She said, I don't want to handle poop. I said, I will handle poop. I'm very good with it. Weird thing to say, but I'm very good with it. Yeah. So because we had canines before, and I was good with that, with the dogs. So I just picked things that, what do you not want to do? I'll do this. And suddenly you know what you're supposed to do. And I've since then done one thing which it's been small, but it's been good, is that whenever I find out someone I know is going to become a dad, I take them out for lunch.
Oh.
I give them the same piece of advice.
Good job.
Say thank you again.
How wonderful is that?
When you were talking about pooping your child, giving your wife, a full night's sleep, my brain was like, oh, we should do a slow clap for you. And I'm like, but why? Yeah.
Exactly.
Why should we do a
it's
slow clap for you?
It's simple, right? Yeah.
Because most of us would be like, oh my God, you are such a legendary dad. But why? That should be that should be
basics.
basic.
If a mom did it, it would not be a clap.
Because the fact of the matter is that biologically, the woman is nurturing. she's carrying,
Yeah.
she's birthing, she's recovering from that process of birthing.
I was going to say that.
Which takes over 2.5 years, by the way.
Right.
So even if you're functioning,
Yeah.
we are still healing. There's a lot happening in our bodies.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I came back to myself like a little over 6 months ago. Before that, I was still trying to assimilate ये हुआ क्या है, अब क्या करना है और कैसे balance करना है, and how am I supposed to find me again?
Yeah.
Who am I? Where did I disappear?
Yeah.
There's so many things, and I feel like at some level, my work saved me. Because while Avian was in the NICU, I was at home, and it was COVID. I was allowed to meet him once a week,
My
Varun. It was terrifying. Yes, I was allowed to see my child once a week. And what kept me sane was my work. So I think it's not only about what example you're setting for your child, it's about what choices are you actively making for yourself. I think by design, we are told that we should not be prioritizing ourselves. And that's a misnomer, it's a fallacy. There's nothing more untrue than that. We can prioritize ourselves as we prioritize our children.
You know, there's this interesting conversation we
And
have
it's
had.
no sacrifice.
Yeah, it's not.
It's absolutely no
It
sacrifice.
should not be a sacrifice, you know. I mean, the
Yeah.
moment it becomes a sacrifice, it becomes that I'm doing something really great.
Yeah.
And we end
No,
up telling
not
our child,
being
you know, I've done
virtuous.
this for you.
So we have this WhatsApp community at Imomira, the company we're building right now, and we just said we call it a parent community, not a mom group, because the problem is it's like why aren't dads? So I'm on a
Don't
few dad
assign
groups.
genders to it. You're afraid.
So here's the
Right.
problem. I'm on a dad WhatsApp group, a bunch of them. You get one message a year, Happy Father's Day. That's it. Every year, once a year, all the dads say Happy Father's Day. But only guys. So we don't say anything to each other, right? I have friend groups which are only men. That's different.
Those are active every day.
Yeah.
Day
Through the
and
day,
night.
right? But you've been put here and you've tagged as dad's community. Mom group, I've seen that mom groups have had a lot of activity all the time. So when we started this community, we're like, let's call it parents. We have so many dads who are constantly messaging in and asking questions, giving answers. The same thing which we saw is that, and I think the last 4-5 years has changed this. When Leah started school, I was the only dad on our class WhatsApp group. Now I am one amongst many, and it's slowly growing.
But men tend to be lesser
We'll say
involved.
lesser. We very like
At PTA meetings, are you seeing a lot of daddies?
few more than before. Because also I think it's less about the dads aren't doing what they should do. It's about sometimes I've also seen cases where I've spoken to some fathers like the wife said, don't do it. This is my thing to do. Don't get into it.
Yeah.
I've seen that. Some of them were like, I want this to be equal, but I don't know how to make it equal. I'm like, bro, it's never going to be equal.
Yeah.
You are never going to be able to do what the mother does.
Yeah.
Don't try.
But I definitely think that things are changing. Like for example, I'm going to this parent-toddler thing with Aryan, and it's so good to see that mom and dad take turns.
Yeah.
So for example, we do thrice a week, and I see all couples kind of taking turns. But it's so nice that firstly it's called parent-toddler. Thankfully, it's not called mom-toddler.
So there was this study done, and I love this study. It's like, so they tracked many women across multiple countries as to what helps them build confidence, and it came down to a lot of how they were perceived physically.
Yeah.
But for men, it came down to how if they felt wanted. If a man feels that he's wanted, his family's okay, you're doing something. And again, these are studies, they always have a certain set of people you go after, you will still generalize. And I'm going to the man part of it. And it's like, I think for every man, if you're actually told as a husband, as a partner, as a father, that this is why you're wanted, they'll do more. Most of them don't know what they're wanted for.
Also, you need to tell
And
them
you have
what you
generation.
want them to
So
do.
my point is
And you have
basically
generational
this
trauma
is-
anyway about how you've seen
Yeah.
dads being
That
gentle.
helps.
This is generally like, okay, give
Tell them
instructions.
what you want.
This is what I need you
This
to
is
do.
what-
This is what I do not need you to do.
Yeah. No, and women have to take that active choice.
When it comes to parenting, I would imagine, yeah.
No, so how much ever we would curse social media,
It has
but
helped.
it has helped. In this form, it has helped
I
a lot.
agree.
Absolutely.
When men are coming up with the roles of, you know, being a parent, being a father and a hands-on father, others are, you know, wanting to do that also. Because somewhere it was like, you know, it's the ego, it's not my job. Why should I do it? But now when they see others doing it and, you know, they are appreciating, maybe a father wanted to do it, but it was just that being ego, ki why should I get into it? You know, it's not my job.
Because the expectations of the father, so I am the strict parent.
Yeah.
That is, you know, everybody finds this really bizarre.
You are the bad cop.
I am the supreme bad cop in the house. Like, kids can cry in front of me, roll on the floor, no reaction. It has to happen this way, it will happen this way. But that cannot just be my only role. And I feel a lot of times the father is told, you have to be this
Exactly.
authority figure.
Exactly.
But
Yeah,
I'm
so
that-
that's how, what I was actually going to say, that a large number of people believe, and that's the function that men tend to perform, is that they'll show up for the parent-teacher meetings because they are the ones who are ensuring the grades are up and the studies are happening and the sports and the... So sports and academia is like their
forte,
their forte and is their zone, right? Everything else, the tenderness, the values, the cultural influences, the daily chores, all of that seems to be the role that the mother has to shape and care for and this thing. And I think culturally also, if you look at how, I'm talking about daily wage workers, you look at people who are working at a grassroots level, you look at the indigenous communities, a lot of what a child, in the way a child is raised, is a community process. So they're always around their grown-ups, there are multiple adults around. The child is always within the periphery or sphere of the parents' workplace. So they're watching their parents toil, whether they are farmers or they're artisans or they're, you know, daily wage workers. And these very same children are going to public schools, and these very same children are then, you know, sometimes spending time in creches. So it's very interesting, and I think it's very important to include this because they're seeing both their parents work. And I feel like a lot of these issues with regard the role that gender plays or which parent plays is more of an urban issue. I feel children at a grassroots level are seeing equality in many spheres.
The world is a living shit show right now. Yeah, if you look at things that are happening in the news,
Horror show.
the genocides, the wars, the way our economies are crumbling, the way just viruses, diseases,
Climate change.
climate change, it's an actual question, it's written right there, look at my prompter. Pollution, climate change. We're living in Mumbai, the AQI level has affected both me and Varun, who are kind of sick on today's episode. How do you protect your child from the realities, and when it comes to your parenting style, are you one of those who are like, मैं protect करके रखूंगी, or is it like, no, let them experience the realities as it's happening and then I'll keep having conversations with them?
No, I think it boils down to a very simple question. What is my response going to be to the information that I have access to, and how am I going to make active choices every day to be a better parent and therefore be a better citizen? And that's in all my advocacy work that I've been doing over the last, I don't know, over a decade now, maybe 2 decades, has been to connect health with environment, which is something that nobody really, now people are beginning to see the connection, because when parents are going to doctors and their kids have croup or asthma or other issues with falling sick in cities where they're breathing toxic air, they're being told, oh, it's the air. It's not the weather, it's not a change in season, it is the pollution. You can't be having birthday parties and serving small plastic water bottles if you really care for the health of your child. Because if you are a parent, your single biggest priority is your child's health. And if that is your priority, then you have to make conscious choices and better choices every day within the world that you occupy.
You know, as you rightly said, I think it starts at home, because my sister-in-law again is a big advocate of making small changes at home, and my niece kind of saw all of that growing up, and she's so aware. She's not gonna let us use plastic bottles at home, and you know, like small things. I feel it's great. Like kids can understand and pick up faster, so why can't we?
They have a far bigger conscience
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
we have.
Yeah.
Like there's this birthday party. It was a birthday party, and Avyan had never been to like a big birthday party. It was his first big one, and there was copious number of balloons used in all forms, and naturally most of them were like plastic. And Avyan has heard me say
No plastic.
no plastic, and I've explained why no plastic to him. And very generously, the parents, while he was leaving, offered him, a plastic tiger balloon, and you know this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, no, thank you, it's plastic. So kids they know better.
So I went and did this class in a second grade classroom. It's my daughter's classroom. I was talking to the teacher about what we're building, and she said, "Can you come and do a session?" So these are like 7, 8-year-olds, right? Spoke to them about anger, showed them an animated video explaining anger, gave them breathing exercises to do when they were having fun doing that. Then gave them questions around, this is something that's happened. How do you feel? How do you behave? Right? And this was 45 minutes. An 8-year-old at the end of that 45 minutes turned to me and I said, okay, what did you learn here? And he said, I learned that how I feel is not necessarily how I behave.
Yeah.
I know 40-year-olds who don't know that.
How beautiful is that?
That's so
That's
8-year-old.
a mic drop moment.
Yeah.
From an 8-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And if you get that from an 8-year-old, that 8-year-old will look at decisions, conflicts, wars so differently.
Also,
They get the fundamentals.
You are not your emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very important understanding for a child to have.
And that child actually, so I keep talking to my daughter and we have these before she goes to bed conversations and stuff. And she'll ask me questions. Like she once asked me, a year ago she asked me, Papa, what is empathy?
Yeah.
I didn't know how to explain it. And we kind of went through when we found content and we spoke about it. And the fact that a 6-7-year-old today is asking what is empathy or asking about is there too much plastic? Like she was, I think there was single-use plastic once and she said, will this go into the ocean? She knows that the problem isn't equipping the children. It's by the time the children become old enough, how do you make sure the world is in a state where they can actually take care of it?
And also, why burden them
Yeah.
with the onus of having to fix the problem that they didn't create in the first place?
Exactly.
They already
And
carry
that's
that.
actually a very big issue. And I keep reminding grown-ups, I'm like, guys, they inherited this problem from us. We need to work much harder to fix it. Why are we putting the onus on them?
But I also want to segue, we've got users who've written in and asked very specific questions. So whoever feels like, they can take it on. I'm going to read out some statements and questions and whatever you guys' thoughts are about it, right? The first question is, no matter how many times I tell my child something, they just don't listen. How can I improve communication and ensure that they actually hear me?
So what happens is most of the time parents are just shouting shouting to the child, right? They are just shouting at the child. So they are not talking and conversing with the child. That is the difference, right? So if I have to talk to you, Janice, if I'm sitting here, I talk to you, I look at you, I'm sitting at the eye level, I'm looking at you, I'm talking
eye
to in a
contact.
at an eye contact, right?
Speaking in a voice which is...
Exactly. That's what I'm doing. And most of the parents are like, why don't you do this? Please do that. Just ordering instructions.
But with teenagers, I noticed that my child tunes out when she's being shouted at. The moment you speak with her and you speak with her with respect, she listens. She may not do it, but at least she'll listen.
Okay, next question. I'm a single parent and the stress of managing everything on my own is overwhelming. How can I cope with the pressure without burning out?
I'm married to someone who grew up with a single parent, right? So Pooja and her mom, lost her father when she was 2. And I have often asked her this question because I grew up with hum saath aate family, right? I grew up with everyone around. Next street is this grandparent, my house, her grandmother. And one of the things she told me is that her mom very early on told her, because her mom was doing multiple jobs trying to just make it happen. And mom said very early on that gave her the reality that this is how it is. And gave her things that she had to do, which in hindsight, maybe you would never think of making a 5-6-year-old handle certain things at home, etc. You have to do it. And she made her a partner instead of making her a child she was taking care of very early on. She said, Pooja is by far the most confident person I know in my life. Right? I mean, she's that, I mean, I often say that I married someone who I felt was the strongest person I'd ever met. And because of that, and it comes from that, is that they went through a lot as mother and daughter, but they went through it together.
Yeah.
So it became a partnership. It's communication, right? It's how you talking to your child and getting them to understand your reality instead of trying to hide it somehow, is what I've learned.
Yeah, it's a combination. I feel it too. Like I was raised like that, and I know for a fact that, I mean, I was cooking at 8. My mom didn't like waking up early in the morning. It was never her thing. I remember waking myself up, getting ready on my own, packing my tiffin, and going to school. And all my peers, like my friends, had like, you know, their parents dropping them or whatever. It was not something that. Yeah, I remember thinking I will always wake up for my kid because I want to be there in the morning when my child is getting. But it's not something that I grudged my mother for or ever looked back, or even now I don't look back at something that my mother didn't do enough for me. So I think it's important for a parent, especially if you're a single parent, to be open with your child about what you can and you cannot do.
Question I really liked. Do I need to throw my child a birthday party every year just because all his classmates' parents do?
Please don't.
What is your take on birthday parties?
Too many birthday parties. Oh
Thankfully,
my
I'm
God.
over that phase.
I mean, my son just had his first birthday and we went to our family home and just spent it with our immediate family. And I think it was the wisest choice because I felt firstly he's too young to have a massive birthday party. He would probably be crying and we would probably be enjoying. Exactly.
For the child.
So I feel like it's about the memories that you create. It's not about how you do it. I know a lot of people, you know, like to take a trip instead of doing a big birthday party because they're creating memories.
So also at one, what is the child really understanding in their entire...
Yeah, and eventually maybe sure if your child is a little older and wants a birthday party, do it however you think seems fit. But I don't think you should feel the pressure because I know nowadays there are some crazy birthday parties being thrown, like really wedding level birthday parties. It's a little not required.
Like
but
what are you normalizing?
So I feel like
the
parents
child is
shouldn't-
watching that on
Wasteful
Instagram,
consumption.
they're watching it on social
Yeah.
media, on their friends' phones, and they're
Wasteful
thinking, I
consumption.
want a
Yeah.
birthday like this.
Many times we travel
Yeah.
many times when it's their birthdays, but now daughter's older, her friends have birthday parties.
Yeah.
She wants to have one too, and all we try to do is, okay, can we not make it
A mela.
that thing? We do simpler stuff. When I say simpler stuff, if it means that they all go to a play area and play, that's great.
Yeah.
Let's not have an extravaganza. It's not a circus. Have we had a circus? We have had a circus at some point of time because I felt post-COVID, we felt this urge, okay, we haven't done enough for her. She's been cooped up. Let's do one.
Yeah.
We did one. But again, when I think back on it, it was a very human thing of we have not allowed her to have friends who you play with for so long. And immediately we knew we shouldn't have done it. Like we knew on that day that this was too much.
It has to be experiential for the child, right? Birthdays, the memory, every birthday is a very special occasion. So it should have a memory which the child should remember, not by seeing the pictures, but just remember that, you know, this was my birthday, we did this and it was fun.
Janice, I think I'm best equipped to answer this question.
Because I was just going to say, you are in an industry where every
exactly,
birthday
right?
party is
So
like
you
one.
have these industry birthdays which are massive, and there's so much over there. I mean, sometimes play dates become massive. So how do you? And
How
here I
play dates
am.
becoming massive.
Oh, you have no idea.
Don't even go there.
I want
no
no
idea.
For me, my
Guys,
definition
a
of
little
play
bit.
date is
It's like a-
you're going to their house or they're coming to your house,
no.
you're
Party
meeting at a
planner for
play
a play
area.
date.
It's like
Wait, don't have sub conversations, guys. You're on a podcast.
One second, what?
yeah.
We can have a party planner for a play date today.
What rubbish.
Yeah.
So what are the children?
So, and there's like this, it's exhausting. So the point is, in that world, that you know, these are good people. You're their friend.
Yeah.
You are taking your child to your friend's home. And your child is being exposed to all of this. But I promise you, kids don't know. They don't care. Kids only care about what you help them understand.
Yeah.
And if my child at age 2.5 could tell an adult, no, I don't want plastic, it means that they have the ability to understand that if you want to celebrate big birthdays, so you say, like I've told this my child, your third party was a big party, now the next party, the big one, will be your 7th birthday or maybe your 5th. You decide which dates you want to do big birthdays. You know what makes Avyan happy? Every birthday that happens in the house, we have a tea party. It's a chaat party.
So fun. Love it.
Whether it's Sajad Bhai, who's been driving me for 25 years, or it's Sharda, or it's, Mama, or it's Vaibhav, or it's me, or even Avyan. There needs to be cake, there needs to be chaat. And he is on top of the world. He thinks it's the best party ever. That's how you form core memories. That's how you give your child values. So please never be compelled by social pressure. You decide for your child what's best for your child. You want to have a big party? Go for it. Nobody's going to stop you and nobody should stop you. But don't feel compelled to do it every year because somebody else is doing it every year.
Guys, this has been a beautiful conversation. I want to ask a heavy question at the end, but try and simplify it. In a nutshell, what is your dream for your child? Everyone just went like, this is the question that I told you Diya might cry off.
It's a selfish dream. I'm going to put this. I don't think I have a non-selfish dream because I think their dreams are their dreams. This is my dream for them. Is that they'd want to hang with me when they're older.
Aww.
That's pretty much it.
They don't think you're uncool or like, oh my god, I can't hang out
You
with
should be
you.
compelled to hang with your parents. You should want to hang with your parents. And I feel you only become that if you become the kind of people and your parents are the kind of people who are hangable with. That's all.
But honestly, this is something that I was able to do, something that my parents enabled me to do, that to let me, and it's a privilege, right? To be able to do what you love. My dream for him again is that he's able to follow his dreams and he's able to do what he loves. And because I think that's very important, that's also very fulfilling.
Yeah.
So for him to be able to do that, I think is amazing.
D?
I want my children to be able to live in a world that's healthy and that is safe and that gives them the opportunity to explore the full potential of their being. And hopefully they'll be kind people.
Can hope.
Yeah, that's my dream for them.
I think what I want for my children are to be emotionally stable and just pursue their happiness, whatever they want in life. So I think just that much is being emotionally stable. I think in today's environment is the most important because many people are crumbling at that level.
Khalil Gibran's words are actually the most powerful. I always write it to new parents. Your children are not your children. They are born through you. From you, but not for you.
We all have one of those parent quotes always sticks with your head, right? We all have those.
Yeah.
Mine's about from Interstellar, right? You're the ghost of your children's future. And so what do you leave behind for them to kind of like remember you by? Because you don't remember everything. You remember.
Interstellar is a very deceptive movie. Just sorry, I watched it recently and I was like, wait, this is not about space and exploration at all. No. This is just about a father and his daughter.
So
this entire,
So I bought that watch and I told Leia that this is the watch I want to give you when you get older.
You bought that watch?
I bought that watch. I was like, I have to, I collect watches, it's my problem. But I collect random things. Like I've taken her to a workshop in Japan and showed her how watches were made, and this is that watch that was made in a tiny thing, not expensive, but just you have to find that thing. But that watch I explained to her, she didn't get it. I'm not showing her the movie, she won't get it.
It's too,
But
I don't think most adults get it
I
on
didn't
first
get it
watch.
when I saw it for the first time. So.
Yeah, I think about a couple of watches.
Well, listen, thank you guys for taking out all of this time on a Saturday to come and shoot this. I'm truly grateful and thank you for this wonderful conversation.
I'm so glad we had this.